Welcome everybody, Josh here, back at it today with a brand new commentary. Today we're talking about the rumors that George Lucas is actually purchasing back his rights from the Star Wars franchise and Lucasfilm as a whole. What do I think about George Lucas possibly returning to the Star Wars franchise that he actually created? Well, as you can tell here, I'm a massive fan of the Star Wars franchise. I collect all the Ultra Sabers from the prequel trilogy as well as the original trilogy, which I still happen to love, even though Disney has done pretty much their darndest to kind of destroy the legacy that George Lucas had built over these years. And even when we didn't have movies, we still had stuff like Clone Wars. We had all the video games like Star Wars The Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2, which Disney basically did away with once the sequel trilogy came out. They basically stated that none of that stuff was canon, and then they subsequently ruined it with each and every new installment in the Skywalker saga, especially with the Rey films that came out, which was part of the sequel trilogy as it's known to become. I actually did like The Force Awakens, and then The Last Jedi. While I didn't do a video about this, I did do a review back in the day, and I stupidly did that Last Jedi review basically after I'd seen the film, and I basically stated that I loved the movie, which at the time I did, but it took me a couple of different watches to kind of realize this movie was garbage and not nearly in any league what George Lucas had in mind when he created this original trilogy and sort of the prequel trilogy as well. And so one of the things that I realized when by that awakening moment is the fact that George Lucas basically gave Disney this franchise and it's basically theirs forever, and now that the corporation itself has taken over, it kind of sees it as a money-making pit. It can just pump out countless sequels, reboots, and remakes and still make money all these years later, which the Star Wars franchise as a whole is really important to me because it combines science fiction, it combines fantasy, it combines myth making. It's really important to the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell as a whole. George Lucas based the Star Wars franchise off of, and I think that as someone that does really study Greek myths and legends and is really into sort of that ancient history stuff, I think the possibility of George Lucas ever coming back to something that was basically ripped from him and destroyed in the manner that it was is probably never going to happen. We're probably never going to see a return to form George Lucas Star Wars movie, and that honestly has set with me since The Last Jedi came out, since Rise of Skywalker came out, that while I did like The Force Awakens, while I was kind of blinded by the fact that this was new stuff and the fact that this was better than what we got with the prequels, which by and large now a lot of people know that the prequel trilogy isn't as bad as people made it out to be. Even when the prequel trilogy came out, I was still a massive fan of the Star Wars franchise. I still really love Attack of the Clones, which a lot of people don't really like. I still really like Revenge of the Sith, which I think is one of the greatest Star Wars films that's ever released. And being a Star Wars fan like I am that still watches these movies but only watches what George Lucas himself has created, I just don't see how you could separate yourself from that long of a time span and see what Disney has done and then come back to it after all is said and done. I just don't think that it's ever going to happen. So I think the idea of Disney selling it to George Lucas, the man himself that created this, I just don't think it's a valid rumor. I don't know if I really trust that rumor just because it's an anonymous source and everybody can say whatever they want to when they're anonymous and you don't have any repercussions if that doesn't come true. And given Kathleen Kennedy's track record of being hired for these projects, firing directors constantly in a position where she should have been fired in any other job, still keep her job and ruin a franchise that people like myself has loved for years, I just don't see the day where they kind of give Kathleen Kennedy the boot and tell her that she's no longer part of the Star Wars franchise. I think they're going to keep her along as long as they pretty much have to say, hey, we worked with this person who's basically treated like royalty with the current era of Hollywood, and they're going to keep her along as long as they have to, and then once she's ready to retire, she'll go out retiring and do whatever she wants, and somebody new will probably take over. And it's a sad day for Star Wars fans, sad day for people like myself that collect this stuff, especially lightsabers and combat-ready hilts, that they've basically taken something that people love, like myself, and completely destroyed it. And I think George knows that. I think a lot of people in the Star Wars fandom know that. I think a lot of people in general know that Star Wars is not in a good place like it once was. So I don't see any reason for George Lucas coming back to something that he created a long time ago, and I just don't really find that those news sources valid. You know, we heard this rumor before that George was coming back, that George is going to take over the franchise and make it better than when they actually bought it, and I just don't see that as the case. I don't see that actually happening now or in the near future. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of this news that George Lucas is supposedly coming back to the Star Wars franchise, what you guys think of the Star Wars franchise as a whole. I'm still a fan of George's movies. I'm still watching his movies even to this day. I just don't really watch the Disney stuff anymore just because it's not really that good and it's basically just like expensive fan fiction. But maybe in the future I will talk a little bit more about my thoughts and feelings for the Star Wars franchise. I just really don't talk about Star Wars anymore just because of the fact that I just don't have passion for that subject matter like I used to. If I'm going to be talking about Star Wars, it's going to be the good stuff. It's going to be the movies I like. So let me know in the comment section down below if you guys like a short little commentary video and my thoughts on the subject matter at hand. Let me know if you're still collecting lightsabers such as that from Ultra Sabers, Saber Forge, or even the other combat ready hilt makers that have Star Wars themed lightsabers. And as always guys, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.